Hi, I'm Christopher John Farley, a senior editor with the Wall Street Journal. Welcome to the WSJ Café. The Starz series Outlander is beginning its second run of episodes to wrap up its first season, and I'm here with the stars of that show, Sam Heughan, who plays Jamie, a Scottish soldier on the show, and Tobias Menzies, who plays a dual role. You play both a British historian and a British captain. Welcome to the Wall Street Journal.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for having us.
Now, for people who are just joining the show as it ends its first season, Tobias, can you wrap it up? Can you catch them up in like 30 seconds or less?
Yes. Okay, quite a challenge. The story begins in just after the Second World War in 1945. We meet a young woman called Claire and her husband Frank, and they're reunited after the war. They go on a second honeymoon to sort of revive their marriage, and there she goes for a walk, and there's some or some standing stones, and she touches these stones, and through some magic of these stones she travels back 200 years. And so the majority of the story is told in Jacobite Scotland, 1743, and there she meets a young Highlander who she falls in love with, and the story is really her in a sort of foreign time, a foreign land, trying to survive and trying to get back to her own time, back to her husband, and so sort of the adventures that ensue from that.
That was more than 30 seconds, I think, but it's pretty good going.
There's no scoring here. Now, Sam, I understand that there's actually a Scottish way of pronouncing your last name, Sam Heughan, and I'm not quite doing it right.
Well, that's pretty close. Heughan.
Okay.
Yeah, it basically sounds like if you're trying to spit or pull up some phlegm. I think it sounds pretty realistic.
Now, you were born in Scotland, and I'm wondering, doing this historical show set in 18th century Scotland, did you learn anything about your homeland you didn't know before?
Absolutely, yeah. I think one of the joys of the show is that it is set in Scotland, and we have the joy to film there. And it's been great to rediscover my country, to dig deeper into the culture and the heritage, into the Gaelic culture, the music, the language. And I think when you watch the show, that all comes across, and it's been great to bring that to life.
Now, my wife loves the show, but there's a scene early on, I'm not going to give things away, that involves you and spanking, that I think it's sort of controversial.
Well,
how did you feel about it when you saw that scene in the script?
It's a vicious rumor no, it is definitely, it's there from the books. Obviously, Diana Gabaldon has written this fantastic series of books, and we don't shy away from anything that's in those books. Obviously, we do like to treat anything of an intimate nature or a violent nature with a lot of care, and I know that the producers and directors and ourselves work very hard on those scenes to make them work for a modern audience, and I think we do that. It comes out of Claire putting everyone in danger, and Jamie has to teach her a lesson. Were you worried at all? Is this going to cost me any female fans if I'm seeing actually spanking a woman, even though it's a historical show? I mean, I certainly don't worry about what the reaction should be. We just have to do the best job we can. But I think we were very aware that if for a modern audience this is sort of a pretty heinous thing to do. But we have to remember that in the 1700s that she puts everyone in danger, and he's teaching her something that he's learned. Whether or not he totally agrees with what he's doing, he knows that he has to do it. It's his duty. And then fallout from that is that their relationship is tested, that they have to find some common ground, and ultimately it pushes their relationship forward.
I mean, 50 Shades of Grey is anything to go by. It's
yes.
A bad thing.
Well, this is not to be about pleasure, but there may have been some pleasure taken in it. I don't know, but yeah, for sure, it's an element in the books, and there's a lot of other dark elements in the book as well.
So it's sort of the 51st shade of grey, basically.
Yeah, or 18th century shades.
Now, you play two characters.
I do.
One character is a caring husband from the 20th century. The other one is a psychopath who involved in an attempted rape to open up the new set of episodes. Is one character more challenging or even more fun to play than the other?
I mean, what is very enjoyable about this job for me is the variety. So it's an unusual proposition, especially in a TV show, to have almost a theatrical device, to have one actor play two different roles. They are connected by family. One is a descendant of the other. I mean, I've really enjoyed, the sort of switching between the two. Obviously, I mean, they say the devil has the best songs, so there's a lot of fun to be had with Jack, who is the sort of the villain of the piece, and it's a sort of study in sadism, and that's yeah, very rich and interesting sort of territory. But Frank, I think we've done, we've drawn Frank out more than maybe he is in the books, and yeah, I'm very fond of him too.
Also in the show, it deals a lot with, people in Scotland rebelling against their English overlords. And during the shooting of the show, there was, of course, this vote on Scottish independence. And I know, Sam, that you sort of spoke out on your feelings about that. How do you feel about how the vote went? And did it have any kind of weird reverberations on actually doing a show that deals with some of these issues?
Yeah, it was a fantastic period in Scottish history, and just almost by chance, that we're still talking about it, 200 years down the line, that or longer, that the same themes are relevant in the show, but
because you wanted the independence vote to be yes, right?
I was very much for the yes. I mean, when I first heard about the arguments, I thought it wasn't a great idea, and then just having spent time there and discussing it further, I thought it was a chance for more democracy for Scotland. Scotland is, without going into too much detail, but represented in Britain, in Westminster, and there's various things like there's the House of Lords that aren't actually voted for yet, have more power than the Scottish government. And it just seemed that the people of Scotland would have more control over what happened to them. Unfortunately, the vote went the other way, but it was pretty close. But also, I think the most important part of the whole process is that it's got people involved in politics again. There's, up until recently, it's been a lot of apathy and voter apathy, and the ratings have been very low. And in this, I believe it was like in the low 90% of people turned up to vote, and it's got people talking again about politics, and I think it's going to be good for British politics as well.
And I'm wondering, Tobias, as a Brit, were you emotionally involved in the Scottish independence vote, or did you think, were you just sort of watching as an observer?
Yeah, I mean, I went through. It was obviously a very interesting place to be working at that time. I was very conflicted because I felt that I was fairly sure that Britain would be the lesser without Scotland, but it was hard not to be kind of excited by the energy that you could feel in the country at the idea of being given sort of more autonomy. So by the end, I could really feel the disappointment that was present on the day after when it hadn't gone through, and I think it would have been very interesting for Scotland, but honestly, from English point of view, I think we would have definitely been the lesser to have lost. Scotland's a very, very vibrant country and contributes a great deal to Britain. So, my sense is I'm fairly sure that given how close it was, it will be a decision that will be revisited in the not too distant future.
We're already talking about it, I believe. Yeah.
Now, back on the show, I wonder how. You do a lot of horse riding in the show. You do some sword fighting. You have some gunplay. How do you prepare for those scenes? Did you go in knowing how to ride a horse, to sword fight? I mean, these things that you knew just growing up somehow?
No, I think every actor, we always like to maybe slightly embellish what's on our CV. And
if you look on any actor's CV, it will say you can ride a horse.
Yes,
that's
ride a horse.
All true.
Juggle, tightrope walk.
Exactly.
Anything you want, I can do it.
I think it's on my CV too, and I'm a journalist.
Exactly. So. Yeah, we got into it, and I'd written in other shows and other productions, but we have a fantastic team of riders, and we had great lessons. We were taught to ride, and it very much again became part of my character. I loved my horse dearly, and I felt very confident with it as well. And I think it's important for Jamie's character. He's spent a lot of time with horses, and so it was important for me that I could ride well. And then, yes, we have it's a very physical show. We had like boot camp.
Especially for you.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And I really wanted to do all my own stunts and do all the fights, and I did. And I think it's just a boy's own adventure, really.
And Tobias, you've been on other shows that have either a period feel or actually were period pieces. Of course, you were on Rome and you played Brutus.
Yes.
You've been on Game of Thrones. How does this show compared to some of those other shows in terms of the way it's conceived, the feeling on the set? Can you compare your experiences?
Yes, I mean, I think as just a production experience, it really reminds me of the shows I've done with HBO in terms of the sort of scale, the production values, very, very high, and it's exciting to work and make TV like that. As a piece of television, I think it's very different from. Certainly different from Thrones, and I know there have been some comparisons, but for me, I think it's a very different beast. Obviously, Thrones is an invented, imagined world. The books that Diana has written are rooted very definitely in a very definite period of history, which is On one that I don't think people know a lot about, so it's been quite exciting. One of the interesting things about the show is bringing that period of history to people's attention.
Yeah, and part of the attraction of the show is that idea of time travel, of the romance of maybe being back in the 18th century in Scotland. Now, from my feeling, I would want to be back there. I like the 21st century. I like having a vote. But you guys, would you want to go back to that time? Is that something that would attract you if you had the choice that Claire, the character on your show, has of traveling back in time? Would you want to do that?
Wow. There's a simplicity that's appealing in that, you know, a man's word is his word, and it seems that, you know, you say something and you don't do it, then you can be held to account. And I think, you know, maybe it was a bit more brutal, that kind of you know, policies or sort of moral code, but in a way there is something appealing about it, a bit more freedom. But yeah, no, I don't think I'd last very long.
I agree. I mean, there's something thrilling about the sort of, I guess, the genuine freedom that you get. It's a sense that there was, and that came obviously with a lot of danger, a lot of responsibilities. But I don't think I would last very long with the dentistry they had then.
No, but we're entering a period as well where, you know, things are very much about to change. You know, we find out very early on that this group of, you know, this race of people, you know, the Highlanders, the Gaelic culture, they're doomed. They're going to be wiped out. And Claire realizes this from the Battle of Culloden and the clearances that happened afterwards. So there's this element that the world is going to change. You know, that the British Army are there and that they're going to change the landscape. And I think that's quite exciting.
Well, Sam Heughan, Tobias Menzies, the show is Outlander, finishing up its first season. Thanks a lot for coming to the Wall Street Journal.
Thanks a lot.
For having us.
Cheers.